And we are back. This is Mike Cagley, I on the Illini with Matt Stevens. Matt has come back from interviewing players and coaches after this thrilling 50-49 overtime victory over Purdue. I don't know that I've seen too many games that swung back and forth as far and as hard as this game did. Matt, let's just go first with your general thoughts on what you saw this afternoon.
To win, I mean, it's that. I mean, Illinois usually loses this game, right? But you know what? I'm not going to try to put lipstick on this pig. Illinois didn't play well. If you want to take solace in the idea that Illinois didn't play well and they won, I totally get that. Like, I'm with you. Trust me, I'm with you. But that's not the performance you were hoping for, not only coming out of the bye week, but probably against one of the worst P4 teams in the country. And I really only have like one explanation for it is that, you know, if you had been preparing, look, Brett Bielema made it plainly obvious, at least in his post game, that the defense the defense was preparing for Hudson Card and then found out on Thursday, like everybody else, that he wasn't going to play. And so now we're going to get a whole bunch of quarterback run and quarterback power. And basically Purdue's going to run the triple. And so now we've got 12 hours to prepare for the triple. I highly encourage anybody to go ask a defensive coordinator at any level, high school, college, or if you can find them in the professional level, because I know a couple that in the college level that would be an absolute nightmare, is to have to prepare for the triple with like 12 hours of preparation and only a walkthrough to be able to do it. You saw Illinois not be able to adjust in the second half once Purdue got their feet wet offensively and figured out how to make an adjustment to what they were doing offensively. When you face the triple, I think you have one way to defend it. And if they make an adjustment, it's really hard for you to adjust, in the sense of, you know, it's such an eye discipline offense that you have to make the adjustments on the fly. And if your eye discipline's bad, that's going to take some film work for you to do it. And so they have the tablets on the field, but I don't know if that was even going to solve it. So you saw the quarterback, you know, Ryan Brown, do what he did today because Illinois wasn't prepared. And that's concerning. But it's also understandable, I guess, if Purdue did a really good job of hiding the Hudson Card injury until Thursday, and that's what you saw. I thought you saw a very evenly matched football game. I don't think you saw a very competitive. I won't call this a competitive football game because I don't think either team played very well. But I don't think Brett Bielema's head hits the pillow all that pissed off tonight. But I don't think his head hits the pillow tonight all that encouraged about what he saw over 60 minutes today. So a lot of mixed emotions about what you saw today, and yet Illinois is 5-1 and 2-1 in the Big Ten. So it's another W. And usually, again, like I said, Illinois usually loses these games. So, but if you're Brett Bielema and you're trying to build the program that way, if you play 12 of these in a regular season, you know you're going to have one. And if this is your one, cool. The problem is that there's a lot of things that I think Illinois knows that they've got to get figured out, and they did not get figured out over the bye week, that are just fundamental, that I think they've got to try to come up with answers before Michigan comes to town next weekend.
Yeah, I look at this team and I get conflicted because I see a game at Kansas that Illinois didn't have their A game, and they figured out a way to win it. And I saw a game at Nebraska where they found a way to win it. And at this game, they found a way to win. And I just didn't think I would see Illinois unable to stop the rush and unable to rush the ball consistently. I just didn't think they'd be, if you would have asked me, Matt, they're not going to have good interior defensive line. Before the season, I would have said, yeah, we see that coming in. The offensive line was supposed to be pretty good this year, and it's struggled at both pass protection and run blocking. And if you would have told me they're going to be 5-1 with that combination of both lines not playing very well, I would have wanted to drug test you.
Yeah. I didn't feel great about the defensive line in August. I didn't feel great about the offensive line in August. And I'll be honest, because
you were one of the few people who was saying that it wasn't as good as what was.
Yeah, I felt like, well, first of all, the new pieces on tackle were going to have to gel. That worked out better than I think anybody had thought. But we're on like an 18-month deal now of, I've never been high on some of the interior guys that they have. And the guys that I have been high on, our subscribers really don't like. So do the math on that. So they tried Brandon Henderson today at guard. I'm not discouraged by what I saw. But when, like, I'm not going to get into preacher mode because our subscribers can't stand that, I guess. So, but this is what happens when you don't run the ball. I mean, you allow Purdue to do what they did, but also you have to understand Illinois scored on their last 4 possessions, and if they hadn't done that, they lose the football game because
that's the part that I think is so interesting here, because we are seeing the anti-Bielema Illinois. They are a team that can go out and throw up 50 points, but yet they give it up, which is not – neither one of those is characteristic of Brett Bielema. I will say that the part that got me is, if first off, I would have said this was a loss, but I wouldn't have thought it was possible to give up 40 points to Purdue in a half.
Yeah. In a half, right?
I didn't think that was possible.
I think, Bielema kind of said it, which was, especially in that second half, all of the bad happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you could have laid out every bad thing that could have happened for Illinois, it happened. And then, you're doing the ability of, hey, I guess we're just gonna try to score, shot for shot with them. And credit Luke Altmaier and the wide receivers. They did that pretty well. But I mean, Mike, I'll just this is the first stinker that Aaron's put up, I guess, this year, right? Though, like, I thought
I think, and I think the reason why
it was drastically bad. Don't get me wrong.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because it was if this was against Oregon, you'd be like, okay, but the Purdue offense has not. There's nobody in this country who's confused the Purdue offense with Oregon.
No. And quite frankly, there's nobody that's confused the Purdue defense with, with Ohio State, right? Yeah. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's.
So what was Brett's mood? What was his mood coming after this? Because I have to be honest with you, as an Illini fan, I'm always excited when Illinois wins, because there's so many times that they haven't. And I think that if you're an Illini fan and you don't walk away understanding the difference of Brett Bielema being in charge, Illinois wins these games a lot more often than they have pre-Bielema. We can look at that any way you want to cut it. So that's a good thing. But I just kind of wonder, like, what was his mindset as you went down there? I don't know what you expected, but what did you get when he talked to you?
I expected a more pissed off coach even after a win, and I didn't get it. And I understand why. They scored one more point than Purdue did, and this game, for whatever reason, was really, really personal for Brett Bielema. I don't think it was personal for anybody else on the sideline. Like, I'll be
on Illinois' sideline,
right? Except for the head football coach.
Yeah, but maybe on the other sideline, some people were fired up.
I think they got that out of their system last year during 44-19. Okay. And I'm just going to be real with you. Like, I think Ryan's got so many more problems than trying to stick it. Brett wanted this one real bad, and he kind of mentioned it. He said, there's a lot of things that they do that piss him off. Literally, direct quote. There's a lot of things that quote unquote, Purdue does now that piss him off. Okay.
And these guys are competitive. These guys are competitive. Yeah, these guys are competitive.
Wants to feel that
too.
way, he can feel that way. You know, I'm not his judge, jury, and executioner on that. Like, feel however you want to feel, man. Our subscribers know that. Like, if you want to feel however you want to feel and it doesn't particularly hurt anybody, go for it. I don't understand it, but whatever. But this was personal for Brett Bielema. So as long as they had one more point than Purdue, I think he was going to go home relatively pleased.
So did he say anything that like jumped out at you, or, you know?
I think he thought that this game was – he acted like he thought this game was going to be tighter. He acted like, as a former defensive coordinator, he knew how much of a pain in the butt it was going to be to stop whatever Purdue was going to run offensively when they made the quarterback switch. My problem with that, though, is that, like, I think Purdue did a really, really good job today of running. I mean, if you look, I have an affinity for the triple. I think actually more power conference schools should actually maybe try and do it, based off of the talent distribution that goes on in this sport. But because it's and you talk to any defensive coordinator, you go to AFCA, which I do every year, and you talk to defensive coordinators, they'll tell you it's just an absolute disaster to try to prepare for that in a week. Illinois apparently had like the better part of 12 hours because they thought,
it's all
was going to play.
Well, for fans, who may not have played football, or it was a long time ago, we played against triple option teams, and we had reads for every position. And so I'm going to say this really delicately, because it was a challenge, because some people just aren't the brightest lights on the patio. And so they have a hard time reading the play to understand their key. Other people are smart enough to figure it out. But like you said, if you don't get a chance to put reps against it, it's like, okay, I know I have to. And for example, I would tell you that the thing that frustrated me was that the defensive end or outside linebacker, whoever was the outside guy, didn't keep contain at all. And you have to understand, against a running quarterback, whether you're pass rushing or whether you're just coming across the line, you have to get a read on where he is, and you cannot let him go get outside your contain, or the whole defense is destroyed. But that's hard to do when you're just thinking about it, as opposed to going out and doing reps against it. In fairness to them,
and that's completely accurate, Mike Cagley. And I tried to get that out of Dylan Rosiak when we talked to him, because I mean, if you talk to the middle linebacker on a defense that has to face this, you essentially have 3 jobs on every play, and you got to do them all well. Like, you know what I mean? So his life had to have been hell all day, and sure enough, he makes the play in overtime. I got news for everybody. That's what Michigan's going to come in here and do next week. Like, I mean,
they're going to run it 50 times a half, Matt.
I'm just talking about schematically. That's almost exactly what they do, especially if they play the Alex Ogre kid. Like, I mean, if they're going to play Tuttle, which I don't think he's completely healthy, like, then it's kind of little bit of a different offense. But if they play 10, who started the game at Washington, that's what they run. It's literally just an RPO triple option offense with a backdoor passing attack that doesn't really, like, they don't really have it in the bag because they don't feel like they have to, because we're handing it to 2 5-star running backs, or we have a quarterback that's a really good athlete, but that's what Michigan's going to come in here and run. So Illinois' got to figure some stuff out in a week, and this is the first challenge of Aaron Henry. So we'll see. But
I have to be honest with you. I'm not overly optimistic. I will say that
neither am I.
I trust the DBs more, and I would almost be tempted to put 8 men in a box and play my DBs man to man. Not that they're great, but they do a decent job, and I like my odds of man to man coverage against Michigan with a poor quarterback and solid receivers. I like those odds a lot better than Michigan's offensive line and those running backs.
I'll agree with Mike. I agree with you. if Xavier Scott's healthy, he wasn't healthy today. He got hurt in pregame warmups. So now we're going to like quarterback 2 and quarterback 3 and quarterback 4. And I'm like, man, I don't feel great about this. Like, and in the second half, Purdue exposed the man that Illinois was playing because they had to get all the way up to the line of scrimmage to stop, the quarterback power and the quarterback run. So Purdue exposed.
Well, like I said, you break contain. That's the danger of a goal. Look, for kids who play, college football, the video game, you can play. You can go ahead and play goal line defense every play, and you can stop people, but then you'll give up 5 70-yard passes.
Right. So, and I'm also told that Ryan had a whole bunch to say on what was being called offensively today.
It looked like he was play calling. I mean,
it looked that way, right? And so, kudos to him for first of all, he knows that defense. He knows that Illinois defense. And I don't have, Hudson Card. So how can I make this a competitive football game? And so, and they made it a close football game. They made it a competitive football game on their end. I mean, I don't think they played very well either, but they're outmanned. Flat out. I think their roster is flat out outmanned. This is not an encouraging win, but it's also not a deflating loss. That if Purdue gets the 2-point play, we're having a completely different conversation.
That's my point exactly. So I don't tend to. I know that most fans disagree with me, and they think I'm trying to give fluff to the coaches, but I gotta be honest, as a guy who spent 15 years of my life coaching AAU ball, I never look a gift horse or a win in the mouth. I'm like, what, if I can win,
they're too hard to get, right?
Yes, because when you're playing, because the other team wants to win really badly,
right?
So go ahead. Any other comments that he made that you were surprised on or anything?
I know why he made it, because if that's ruled a fumble, then Luke essentially lost you the football game. But he's still on a career night for Luke Altmaier. He's still doing he's holding on to the ball too long.
That was clear, and
that's fine. That's an honest, whatever. But I don't know if 2023 Luke Altmaier pulls off what he pulled off today. So
the thing is that
you get both sides of this, right?
What was really interesting about that, Matt, was when, and I thought this was really cool to see when you were looking at Luke Altmaier, is after that fumble and he was on the sideline, he was still smiling, positive, with guys in the ensuing drives. And I thought that would have been a real easy time for him to get, kind of unnerved. And I didn't think at any point he seemed, and maybe he's just a better poker player than we like to think he is, but I thought that he kept himself very positive and didn't get out of sorts, and that would have been there have been an excuse to do that, right?
Sure. I've written about this, Mike. I think welcome to the new Luke Altmaier, and I think you can thank the work that he did in the offseason, mentally and emotionally, was specifically like his sports psychologist that everybody around him was telling him to go see. It's paid off in 2 games. I think it paid off in the Nebraska game when you saw the face mask that could have completely unnerved him and could have ended the night there, and it didn't. And then you saw, the fumble, and then they go into overtime. And he's looking over at Bielema and going, I think we ought to go that way because that's toward our band. And that's the way that I think we ought to go. And I mean, Bielema's Belichicking this and going, yeah, I was going to go that way anyway. But my quarterback's already thinking like that. So he mentioned that in the post game. It's a criticism that Bielema has of Luke that I think he continues to ring home because week after week after week he's seeing it with Luke, and it's a fair one. But he also had a career night and was the reason you probably won this football game, other than also leave it up to me. I guess I made him cry. I made Bielema cry again because I mentioned Josh McCray. And for people that still don't remember or need a refresher course, The first scholarship offer for Brett Bielema as the Illinois head coach was Josh McCray. And I detailed that a long time ago. You can go find it on Illini Guys. Maybe I'll dig it up again. But one of Brett Bielema's best friends was a high school coach who used to be in Wisconsin, who is now, for whatever reason, in Dothan, Alabama, is Josh McCray's high school coach. And the reason that Brett gets, emotional about this one is because Josh McCray is his first. I mean, and that's always going to be special to him. But also, Josh has had some trials and tribulations, and I think you've seen him, maybe get through the other end of that, because he looked like, again, and we say this a lot, but he looked like freshman Josh McCray again at certain points tonight and today. I will tell you, he's been through a lot, and I'm not just talking about the injuries, because the injuries are a lot, but, he lost his mom, while he was in high school, lost his grandmother right before he showed up in Champaign. His grandmother loved Brett Bielema, loved him to death before she passed away. So Josh has had a lot of reasons to say, this isn't going to work out for you, kid. And he continues to come back. And I thought he was a huge reason they won the football game today. And I'll tell you, if you want to X's and O's this thing, his ability to be a weapon out of the backfield for Luke Altmaier has been a complete game changer for Josh McCray. And he is the one guy right now in that running back room who has proven to be somebody that can do that as a natural weapon. And I think that going forward, you're going to see that more. And one of the reasons you're going to see that more is, I said it in the game room, and I said it because I didn't see anything physically on his body during warmups. He wasn't dressed out, obviously, but I think Caden Fagan's going to be out for a little bit. And Bielema kind of said it's a hyperextension of his left leg during Tuesday of inside drill. And it's not good. And I'm not saying he'll be gone the rest of the year, but I don't think they're not anticipating him being active for Michigan. So what you got now is you got Josh McCray. And based on what I saw today, if you give Josh McCray 20 touches, that might work out well for you. And I'm not talking about 20 carries. I'm just talking about getting him the football maybe 20 times. That works out well. He had 3 touchdowns today, and he had 5 yards a carry. I mean, this is going to work. I think the other thing you saw today that Illinois has been preparing for, I think it's a wraparound. Illinois has been it's funny because what did we say last year, Mike, in West Lafayette? I was sitting right here telling you, I had just gotten done with post-game interviews, and I literally had to spill the tea immediately. Isaiah Williams is standing on the field telling every media member who was willing to listen, they were calling out our signals.
Were they doing it again this year?
It was embarrassing. Here we got the flip side of that today, which was basically the offensive guys at Illinois saying, we knew exactly what they were going to do on defense because we've been running against this defense since last spring. It's the same defense. And so I thought that was weird in the sense that yeah, but it was the same defense that you were preparing for last year when you went to West Lafayette, but it's an older, more mature group. And what I mean by that is this group and this offense and these coaches and these players have been preparing have been looking at that bare front since the spring, since fall camp in August, right? And one of the things that they've been preparing for, because nobody really consistently plays the bare front that Illinois does, again, except for Purdue, Luke Altmaier is a really good athlete, folks. And I think if you take away the sack numbers, he had 90 yards rushing today.
Yeah, he would have. You're right.
So I'm sitting here and I'm going, they have been waiting for months to employ the RPO action where Luke pulls it out of the belly and then just goes around the edge because they didn't set the edge on defense. And,
right. And yeah, just like Illinois did.
Right. And you saw that today because Luke's a former baseball player. Luke's a former basketball player. He's a really good athlete. And you saw that today. So, and you also saw, I thought, Josh McCray go, oh yeah, I know what to do against this front because they're gonna clog up the A gap. So then I just stick my foot in the ground and I don't dance and I go north and south and that works. And then you saw Pat Bryant. So Purdue finally takes the lead, 43-40. What do you see from Pat Bryant? Well, Pat Bryant knows, they're still gonna play man. And sure enough, they played Pat Bryant in man, and he got behind them and made a big play, and now you can get the field goal, right? So You saw Illinois' offensive guys go, we've seen this before. We've seen this for months. We've been repping this for months. So the opposite effect of Illinois' offense was they've been repping against this for months. So they were confident. The Illinois defense had been repping against this for 12 hours in a non-contact walkthrough and did not feel confident. So I guess I'm grasping at straws for maybe excuses because, look, the Illinois defense played terrible. And they have a lot to answer to tomorrow when they look at film. But I think the Illinois offense looked confident because they've taken recognition of what they've seen and they've been able to use it. And so that's why Illinois is able to put up 50 points and 40 plus points against a Purdue defense that, needs to probably play less man, but I'm not sure that they know how to do that because they sure played a lot of zone last week against Wisconsin and
that didn't look good either.
Well, they left. I mean, you're playing zone and you're the deep safety and I watched it. I watched a lot of that game last week in Madison where they're leaving their receiver off to, oh shoot, nobody. Like I saw that a lot too. So, kudos to Brett Bielema for being able to pull this out. Kudos to the whole staff for being able to figure out a win, but also kudos to the visiting sideline for at least showing something. Like after what has been a really, really tough start in West Lafayette. And I think you saw something where, hey, I think you saw something in which that was like, hey, we don't really have to fire this guy after our bye week. So I'll go that far. Let's.
To me, that's a hard situation. You just got to. You have to know what everybody's agenda is. I mean, somebody could have it out for him, or I would think you want to save $9 million, but that's just me.
He's also got to look. If we're going to do this, he's got an athletic director that wants to keep him, desperately wants to keep him. And so, if you're an athletic director that watches that tonight, damn it, look, we just said it right. These don't happen very often, so you got to win them. Like,
no, I agree.
When you win them, like they don't. These are hard, so you got to win them. But they didn't quit. They had every probably excuse to quit on Ryan Walters and this entire staff, and I didn't see a whole lot of quit in Purdue. I just didn't see a whole lot of consistent execution on defense. But I didn't see that out of the home team in blue either. So, like I said, I don't feel like it was a competitive football game, but it was a close football game, and it was an entertaining football game. So, yeehaw!
I got to think for the recruits Illinois had, this was a fantastic game for them to watch because they're just looking for excitement. They're not sitting there going, "Well, we should have done this or that." They're just saying, "Oh, that was great, and we won."
They stayed the whole time too. I can verify that because that's what I'm saying. We have to get through this. We have to get through the recruiting section to get onto the field with 5 minutes to go, and they all stayed. So that's a good sign too.
I got to wonder if I don't know how to pronounce that kid's 31 for Purdue.
You talking about safety or are you talking about Mockabee?
Safety.
Moggabee's 45, right?
No, 31, the safety. Yeah, Thieneman. I got to wonder if he's going to.
His two older brothers played at Purdue. He's a legacy.
Okay, so I was going to say, because otherwise, if I was him, I'd be going like, okay, I can play somewhere a lot better than this and have a huge impact because he's quite a player.
He is. I think he's an NFL player. Definitely. I think we're talking about one of those Purdue legacy deals, Mike, where mommy and daddy both went to Purdue, older brothers both played and went to Purdue. I'm going to go to Purdue too. So, I covered his older brother at Purdue in 2018. Like, we all knew Dylan was coming. So, like, yeah, he's a really good player.
Oh my gosh.
In the back of Purdue's defense, he saves their bacon on so many different ways.
They can play him back as a one deep, and he can cover. Or he can.
He's their version right now of Ed Reed because there's a whole lot going on up front. There's a whole lot
that's
of
wrong,
bad, and he makes up for it a lot of the time. So
yeah. So any other coaches besides Bielema come up and talk today?
No, we don't ever get any coaches other than Bielema after games. So.
And then
I think this is a game where Aaron Henry is best to get in the bunker and try to figure some stuff out. And Barry Lunny's
but what is
probably going home and cracking open a beer and going,
God, I'm not the
I earned my money. Like, I earned my money tonight.
So though, but there has to be an improvement. Like, Illinois fans, they struggle because there's a lot of Illinois fans. I can't believe this is happening. And of course, thankfully, the Illini had a couple times they could have quit and they didn't, to their credit. Cause with 43 seconds left, that wasn't a likely comeback.
When it was
But
43-40, I thought Illinois was going to lose. So,
yeah, I thought the odds were strong, I mean,
right.
and the bottom line is this team doesn't quit, which is something that if you read Steve Sturm's football recruiting spotlights is something that they recruit for, and you can see it on film. Every player that Bielema gets is a guy who has at least a few effort plays that they come and do something after being blocked or whatever, and they manage to get to accomplish something. But they've got to, NIL or whatever, they've got to close the deal on some defensive linemen and some linebackers, because they're just that's just a challenge. I mean,
yeah, I mean, look, they're playing a former walk-on Ryan Mead right now, a lot of snaps. I mean, they're playing. If it's not Ryan Mead, it's James Kreutz, who's 15 pounds too light and didn't have a whole lot of D1 or FBS scholarship offers to begin with, or it's Kiana Agaluga, who didn't have any D1 scholarship, like FBS scholarships, and was going to go Ivy League if he didn't, get a late scholarship offer from Illinois. Those are your middle linebacker options right now that aren't named Dylan Rosiak, who took some arrows, I think, unwillingly before, I think he took some arrows after the Penn State game where I'm like, dude, like, my guess is you need to figure out a way to not have a 300-pounder sitting on Dylan. Like that would be ideal. And that's what happened in Happy Valley. I thought he played really well at Nebraska. And I thought, he would be the first one to tell you probably he was probably not the best in terms of eye discipline with the quarterback stuff today. But, again, we get into overtime and he made a play. So, I mean, but yeah, I think you're a linebacker short. And I think that could get solved with off-season work with James Kreutz, because if he's 230 pounds instead of 215, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's insane. And I say that in a good way. Like he's Olin's son. Like he's insane. He throws his body around in a way that I don't think he's going to last the whole year. But sure enough, he's made it through 6 games.
I keep thinking if Easton Baker can just put the weight on the way he throws his body around, holy cow.
Yeah, and Easton Baker, look, but here's the thing. Easton Baker's going to come in here at 220, 225
right, that's what I'm saying.
He's going to be 15 pounds too light in the butt for him to play. And I want to make this very clear, because I've already seen this in the post-game thread. Like, this is not me saying Ryan Mead should play. This is me relaying to you that Archie McDaniel thinks that Ryan Mead should play. So if you want to get mad at somebody, don't get mad at me. Get mad at the coach that is telling you, hey, I have a whole lot of more experience than you. I'm going to play this kid. So, if you're an Illini Guys subscriber on that one, you're probably just going to have to eat it.
By the way, Matt, this is the first game that I've ever seen that wasn't a video game that the red zone attempts for both teams was 13 for 13.
And they should have been, right? That's not shocking.
And your red zone points was a grand total of 75 combined with both teams.
I got one for you, Mike. Do you know that the only time that Illinois has not come away with points in the red zone is the end of the half at Penn State?
Yeah,
that's it. They are, what are they now? 23 of 24 in the red zone this year. We had discounts. This is again a Barry Lunny thing. We couldn't figure out exactly what Illinois' red zone problem was last year, and this year they've figured it out. And so yeah. So to summarize this whole thing, yeah, Mike, I've been saying for months the defensive line's got to get improved.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen in the next 6 games. You got what you got. Right. And nobody's hurt.
Or you got to schematically figure out some sort of Band-Aid, but that's tough to do because there's only so many
6 games with Dennis Briggs, which thank God, because I wasn't sure how long his legs were going to last. So he's healthy. T-Rod's still healthy. Alex Bray's still healthy.
And again, let's be clear here. If Illinois had the normal depth that you could rotate through 6 or 7 defensive linemen, those guys would be fantastic. If you had those 3 guys.
I'm not going to make this argument again. If they had recruited the way they needed to in 2022, like they would have the D-line depth to be able to play right now.
And then that goes back to the question that I will put, and I'm more on this than most people.
I don't know the answer.
It comes back to you better get, as Illinois fans are like, oh, this game was horrible. It's like, no, if you thought this game was horrible, then pull out your checkbook and figure out how you're going to donate to Icon for the Illini, because the only way out of this, and I hate to say this, but the most, and you can argue with me here, but there's only one position that costs more on the open market than defensive line, and that's quarterback. So if you need to get,
with the rare exception of running back that I've seen, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. And so if you need, Illinois is not going to get, they're not going to recruit some 25 kid who's going to walk in here next year and make a difference on the football field. Even defensive linemen, that is so rare that happens even at Ohio State, let alone Illinois. So
Right.
That means you're going to have to find on the open market a defensive tackle or two that you can afford. And you're going to, just by definition, you're going to have to overpay.
But you're also seeing the reason why next week is so important too, because boy, wouldn't Jimmy Rolder look really good in an Illinois uniform right now? And he plays for Michigan. Like, you know what I mean? And he went to Marist High School in suburban Chicago. Like, and his dad played offensive line for the University of Illinois. Scott Kehoe played,
yep,
and was I think an All-American at Illinois, or at least an All Big Ten player at Illinois. He'd look really good and he would start in that Ryan Mead position on the Illinois defense right now at middle linebacker. And he'd be really good. He'd probably be All Big Ten. Because he's probably going to be All Big Ten at Michigan. But
wouldn't be playing behind quite a duo of tackles, but yes.
Sure, but like he'd still be, I watched him.
He'd be good. I know he's good. Yeah.
I watched him at high school make a whole bunch of tackles. Like, so yeah. I also think he was when you beat, if and when you can beat Michigan on a national televised stage, that changes the dynamic too. So you're arguing the point of why next week is so big too. But next week is big because I think Illinois walks in here thinking that they can and probably should win if they play well, but also knowing that if they play defense like they did today, they're not going to. Like,
I gotta be honest with you. Again, I'm an Illinois fan, but I got to call it the way I see it. I'm worried next week we're going to see 350 to 400 yards of rushing, because Michigan, say what you want, they have the discipline more than probably only Brett Bielema would do it more than Michigan would. But if they go, well, look, I've run it. This reminds me of high school. We had a coach one time, we ran a dive right. We ran it like 18 plays in a row because we got like 9 yards or more. And so we just kept running dive right. And Michigan will go, well, you didn't stop it. We'll just keep running it until you do.
It's the same offensive coordinator who's now the head coach who decided he wasn't going to throw a forward pass last year at Penn State. And
exactly. Won. And so I think if Illinois can't figure it out, I do think it could be like that. Now, Bielema's a smart guy, but they're going to have to schematically figure out, how do we protect the interior guts of the defense against the run? And then what do we do on the guard center guard gap on offense that has been a struggle with the best 2 defensive tackles we will run into all year, because these guys are better than Penn State's duo.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to look at the film review to see if Illinois was really that bad, or if, Purdue just dropped their edges so bad that Luke decided to just pull it out and just run. Right. You know what I mean? So that's one of those things. But yeah, I think having a look, here's the thing. I feel like I'm trying to make excuses for Illinois, but they did win the football game.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. So they won.
Illinois goes into next week, Mike. They have the better quarterback. I don't care who Michigan plays. Luke Altmaier's better than him. I don't care who either one of the 3 that they have. Luke Altmaier's better than all 3 of them. So that's a good thing. I think Illinois has better receivers than Michigan. I don't know the last time that's ever happened. And if Xavier Scott plays, because I think Michigan's All-American corner isn't healthy. They've had a bye week to get ready, so yay. But you know, I think Michigan's defense is still elite, but you know, Washington did prove that if we hang on and hang on and hang on, we'll bust something, and we can do some stuff if we have a quarterback that gets hot. And Will Rogers has been known to get hot, and Luke Altmaier tonight proved that he can get hot. So
he carried it, even with mistakes that he made, which
sure.
I have yet to see other than, you know, Tom Brady. There are very few quarterbacks who just don't make a mistake all game.
Right.
But he carried this Illini team because when they needed him, he either made the pass where it needed to be put, or he did it with his legs.
Welcome to confident Luke Altmaier that we didn't see last year.
I mean, right tonight we saw a guy that if my biggest concern about him is he holds on to the ball for a second or two too late.
You and the head football coach at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign both have the same.
I tell you, if he cleans that up, the only other thing is like the pass to Pat Bryant there at the end would have been an easier pass if he'd have let it go about a quarter of a second to
he
a
hangs
half
on
a
to that
second.
sucker a little too long.
Yeah.
But again, I think the play gets made. I also think Brett Bielema is able to understand the confidence level of Luke that with 7 seconds left in regulation, they're able to throw a fade and figure out a way like for Luke to throw a fade and know that Luke's going to leave enough time on the clock to at least kick the field goal.
I agree.
I couldn't figure out what the hell Illinois was doing. I'd have kicked the damn field goal right then. I told somebody, I said, you know what I would do? I would go to the middle of the field. I would take a knee and I would say, hey, David, okay, now you kick it. Like I wouldn't have screwed around with that. And
I'm telling you right there, though, that's what you do. If you're in the NFL, you got a quarterback that can drop the ball where you want.
You have a confident quarterback. Hey, let's see if he can make a play, and we don't have to go to overtime, right?
Exactly.
And that's where Illinois sits right now with their quarterback and with their wide receiver play, and quite frankly, with their pass protection. Because I didn't think it was that bad today.
Although he did have 30 yards in sacks, I mean, now again, you could argue part of it.
But he's in the gun a lot, so like every sack is what, like 10, 11 yards.
Yeah.
So like, you know what I mean? So like,
I
didn't think pass protection was that bad. I think and look, again,
two of them he should have just Jeff Georged it.
There's that, and then look, I'm not trying to get preachy with our subscribers, but for every subscriber that wants to know why Khalil Valentine only plays like a dozen snaps, one of them is because he left his quarterback out there to die, like on a sack, just flat out die. And you can't do that. And that's when true freshmen go into the film room and go, look, if you cannot do this, if we put you out on the field. And that's another thing is that, again, Josh McCray has become a really good pass blocker, and he's also become a really good weapon in the pass game. So the offense has some answers. The defense, this is the first time where your defense is shaking your head at Illinois and going, like, let's not revert back to what we did last year, man. Like this can't happen. So, but Illinois is 5-1 and 2-1 in the Big Ten, and they have a lot of things. I'll say this: like Brett Bielema did the high school coach thing, which is he looked us all in the face and was like, "You all realize this is about the best thing that could happen to us, right? You get that, right?
You get a win, and you can yell at them, and they'll pay attention to you. That is
better because I mean, they know that again. They know the They know the blue and white the blue and yellow helmet is coming, and they're really good. Like they're not great, they're not elite, they're not defending that, they're not 2023 national championship elite. No, nobody.
No, but they're a dumb decision to not get a quarterback in the portal. If they had a quarterback who could put up, could get them to 3 more touchdowns in a game, all of a sudden that defense isn't on the field as often. And now all of a sudden that defense looks a little more like last year, and they're scoring some more points.
Right. And with all that,
and that has nothing to do with the kids.
Right. But they can also, like, with all of that being true, they can still come in here in Champaign and win.
I have no doubt that they are under. I'm sorry. I'm not. This pains me to have to say this about Michigan, but they're underrated. They're better than 24 because they can go out and knock the snot out. They can go toe to toe with anybody. It just depends on how bad their quarterback play is, and
And I mean, and again, if they again, whatever the 3 they play, but Illinois better with with Alex Ogre, like they better play, they better run, they better do their keys on the triple option because that's essentially what he runs, right? So, the finality of this game is that, look, I think Brett knows how important this one was to him personally, and so I don't think that there was a lot of, hey, this was really bad coming out of him. I think if you wanted to guarantee Ryan Walters saves his job, if they complete the 2-point play, I think Ryan Walters is saved. Like I really do. I also think that like this Big Ten, I'll leave it at this, is that I look, yeah, I thought I'd see a more angry Brett Bielema. I didn't get it. So, okay, cool. But like, I also know that he could go leave us, go into the Smith Center and be a completely different human being. So he could be really pissed about this. Who knows? I don't know. I think he has a lot of concerns going into next week, and that's what you got. So I am.
There's nothing new for an Illinois football coach being concerned going into a game with Michigan.
Yeah, yeah. I also think he's concerned about, we got 6 games left. We're at the halfway point here, and I've got concerns. And I think that Brett thought a lot of those concerns got solved during the bye week, and they very much did not. And so,
but you got Michigan, and Oregon, but then you got Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers, Northwestern. So,
that was the point I was about to make, Mike. Is that I think beyond 4 in the Big Ten, I think everybody's beatable, and that includes Illinois.
Oh,
sure enough, Illinois could prove that today, right? So
Illinois could go 0-6, and to be honest with you, they could go 5-1. I don't see much way of them beating Oregon, but they could legitimately go 5-1. They could end up 10-2 this year.
Sure.
Now, would it take a little bit of luck? Would it take, no injuries? I mean, there's always those factors, but they could also go 0-6 and end up, they could go 0-6.
Go 0-6.
And then you would end up, a little frustrated.
You end up exactly where you were last year at 5-7, but
yes,
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either.
But I think if anything proved anything today, if you're a Big Ten fan and you've been watching this for now 7 weeks, everybody short of Ohio State and Oregon, maybe even apparently Penn State, even though they tried real hard to lose it in the Coliseum today.
But that's a big deal for them because I think that this is
no
the
doubt.
type of game. I think this toughens them up an awful lot.
But I also think, okay, let's take those 3 and put it away, right? I think everybody else in this league has proven on any given day we can get beat.
And badly, right?
And I'm telling you right now, on Saturday, October 12th, Illinois proved anybody in the league can beat us. Yeah. Anybody in the league can beat us. And so I'm not sure who's good beyond the top 3 in the Big Ten. And I won't say that. I'm not sure who's going to show up every week beyond the top 3 in the Big Ten. I think that's fair. I know who's good. Illinois is good.
But see, this is what I think.
Good, right?
This is what sets Illinois apart, though.
But if Illinois doesn't show up, Illinois will lose.
Well, they will, but I'm telling you, they've won 2 games that they didn't have their best gunpowder, and I would not have thought they could do that. And
you didn't think they played well against Nebraska? Because I thought we had that conversation. And
Nebraska, they played okay, but Kansas they didn't, and certainly today they didn't.
Right.
Kansas.
I think the Kansas game had some significance in the way that they were trying to not mistake their way to a loss.
I agree.
And that's not necessarily playing bad. I thought they played well at Nebraska. Like in that environment, I thought Illinois played well.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that they have not been able to do what Brett Bielema thinks are 2 of the 3 most important things:
run the ball, stop the run, cover kicks.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, if you would set Brett down, and there's no microphones, and you would say, hey, how many of these games are you going to win if you can't stop the run and you can't run the ball yourself? He's going to look at that schedule and tell you that not very many. And he's sitting on 5-1, which tells me if they can crack the code, maybe it is, a slight change in the lineup, Wigginton comes in, who knows, but or maybe they have to decide we're going to block it a little differently. You know, I'm not an offense. I hated playing offensive line, but you know, maybe they do something a little different. You know, that we've all seen football coaches who know how to coach offensive lines, and Bielema's probably got a Rolodex of different solutions that you try, and each one probably is a little less probability of working, and you probably need your back a little bit to the wall before you go to the next idea. But you know, he's got a Rolodex of ideas he can try. And the one thing I worry about is on the defensive line, what do you do? Because short of, you know, throwing freshmen in there, which just generally.
No, you've got what you've got. No, I've said it before. I'll say it again. You've got what you've got.
Yeah. And so there you're going to have to me, the only thing I can think of is at least a team like Michigan, you bet on the fact that these guys can't throw for crap.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what you're going to see. I think it's what you couldn't see today is that they couldn't fully sell out on Ryan Brown today because he might pop past them. And then suddenly now it's 70 yards down the field. I think, again, when you have a week to read the keys, you have a better understanding
I'm totally with you.
Happen. But I also think, I would fully expect Aaron Henry to sell out against the run and say, hey, it's not even, hey, you're going to have to beat us throwing the football. No, you're going to have to beat us running the ball into an 8-man box.
Right,
That's
exactly.
What you're going to have to do. And short of and look, they've got Donovan Edwards and they've got another freshman that's going to be probably an All-American. They've got one of the two best running back duos in the country, along with Penn State, and when they're healthy too. So they can run into an 8-man box. And it's the thing I've told everybody else. Again, I'm not trying to get preachy with our subscribers. You can walk as many guys up to the line of scrimmage as you want. Doesn't mean you're going to stop the run.
Right.
Because if you scheme it up and you block it up the way you're supposed to, 3 or 4 of the guys that you walk up to the line of scrimmage are never going to be part of the play because they're going to be so far away from where the ball is going to go that it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. So that's when you're playing in a box, right? And so that means, to your point on Illinois' offense, they've got to get better at blocking it up when they play in that small space.
Yeah, because that's the only weakness that they've had in that same small.
And quite
space.
frankly, Mike, I thought in the first half they were a little bit better at it.
I agree.
I really did. I thought we were seeing 3-yard runs and 4-yard runs instead of no gains and 1-yard runs.
I agree totally. Part of that was I also think Caden is running too tentatively, and he got a little better the last game, but that doesn't matter anymore. And I think Josh McCray, we're starting to see him be like his old self, so that's great. Hey, quick question.
Go ahead.
Where was Rusetich today? Was he?
I mean, again, I'm not trying to quote Aaron Henry, but they think their two safeties are better than Mac Rusetich.
Right,
so they don't like to take their safeties off the field. So,
I agree. Yeah.
So Miles Scott's going to play a lot. And if he can play every snap, if you look at the snap counts that I've been presenting to you on the film reviews, Miles Scott doesn't sit out many snaps. And then, Matt Bailey doesn't sit out a whole lot of snaps. Right. So where was Mac Rusetich? I think I'd have to go back and look. He wasn't on the availability report, so he was healthy. I'll look tomorrow when I get the snap count whether or not he played a lot. But if he didn't play a lot, it was because
other guys were better equipped at this.
Believe it or not, it's funny you asked that because Mac Rusetich is also part of the contention between the two staffs today, and how Brett Bielema tried to claim that they were trying to hide the Mac Rusetich recruiting file away from certain guys in his staff because he knew that they were going to leave, and certain other guys who then left for West Lafayette knew that was total crap. So Mac Rusetich is kind of the part of the inauguration of I don't like you and you don't like me, but not really kind of thing. So it's funny, but they think he's going to be really, really good. They just don't think he's Matt Bailey and Miles Scott good. And I agree.
Now, the other thing Matt Bailey, a couple touchdown saving tackles today. I mean, that's hard to do that more than once a game. I noticed too that, and we talked about this in our instant take for a real brief instant, but Colin Dixon really has he's making some big plays out there. And Hank Beatty, when you run it out of the end zone, you better get a big one.
Two things on that. One is that, boy, hasn't Colin Dixon gone from a no-snap guy last year to a guy that really matters this year.
And he also looks like a different person because he has really gotten – I mean, he's bigger, stronger, faster. I mean, there's a guy who –
And the I was going to say, the combination of him and Justin Stepp, the new wide receiver coach, is an instant, beautiful relationship, because there might not be anybody in the room that Justin Stepp loves, maybe except for Pat Bryant, more than Colin Dixon, right? So that's a developmental project that's I can't wait to see develop over the next few years. The Hank Beatty thing, first of all, Hank made an unbelievable catch near the end of the game that I thought was really, really key. He comes up and makes big plays. The punt return at the 2, I will tell you, I don't know if TV showed it.
They did not.
Robbie Disher made a beeline for him and basically said, "Don't you ever do that again." I know you got out to the 23, and that's awesome. You're a hell of an athlete. That you were the Gatorade Player of the Year in high school in Illinois. That's why they recruited you. Don't ever do that again. That was the dumbest thing you've ever done. Don't ever do it again. And that's. I love Robbie to death, because he was like, "Man, you almost got me the biggest ass chewing from my boss that I've ever gotten in my life." And then if we're going to quickly mention special teams before we sign out, I tried to do some investigative work at halftime. I was trying to figure out if the sky kick was intentional, and I can tell you it was not. Ethan didn't hit it right.
but the wind did hit it right,
and also it backspun toward the kicking team,
exactly,
when Purdue let it hit the ground, which, as we know, last year, remember the Northwestern game last year, don't ever let it hit the ground no matter what.
I'm with you.
Ground, so that's on Purdue more than it is anything. But I kind of thought, hey, wait a minute, did we kind of do some trickery kind of stuff here and do a sky kick just to see if Purdue was sleeping? And I think
they returned the favor later on.
And Illinois would love to take credit for that. I just think Ethan didn't hit it right on his foot and it went. And it was a happy accident, because you saw when they went and scored after the sky kick, Ethan line drive the hell out of it through the end zone. You know what I mean? So, Illinois got a special teams, luck, however you want to say it. And again, I think it ended up being a huge play in the game, because if Illinois doesn't get that and they don't steal a possession that way, maybe they don't even win the football game. So, I think special teams wise, Illinois was pretty on point.
Perfect. Well, folks, we're getting up to the hour mark, so we're gonna let this one go. Thanks, Matt, for letting us do that. Of course, Matt's going to have articles here in the next day or two that will follow up on this. IlliniGuys.com subscribers, enjoy them. So please give us that opportunity. If you enjoy what you're seeing right now, give us a follow on X. And then, of course, the subscription to the Illini Guys gets you the full stories, gets you a message board, gets you the stories ahead of time. So we appreciate it. Thank you very much, Matt. And we will talk to you guys with a preview of Michigan coming Monday night. Until then, go Illini.